know it's the intro, but I want to celebrate our biggest victory so far. We have actually sorted out our Superhero Showdown bracket.
Yes, we have.
It's there. It's arrived. It's like, I think we're sorted for like the next 15 weeks or something.
It only took like several reminders to me.
Yeah. It's all right. We're going to get to the quarterfinal stage and I'm going to start bugging you for characters for the next bracket so that we can just keep it rolling.
Can't wait to repeat characters because I forget who we've already done.
Don't worry, I'm going to keep a list of all of them so that we can avoid that as much as possible. But anyway, how's your week been?
Still busy. I feel like I've got so many projects on the go at the moment and juggling them with all different due dates and everything. Shit, like due dates keep changing as they do in these things. So it's like each day I seem to be working on a different project. But the closer it gets to this Halo event, the more things are getting ticked off, and then it'll just be like, okay, it's done. Chill for like a week, and then it's on to the next thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You've had a week off.
I have. I've been having a great time. So obviously, last week when we recorded this, I just finished work, and we were going into a 4-day bank holiday weekend. But I'd also booked time off for the rest of this week, going into Monday, because this weekend we're flying over to Ireland to see family we haven't seen since before the pandemic. And it just lined up really nicely with getting my PC and being able to play games and stream and just proper decompress after not really having a break since January. And in that time, we've launched the podcast. I've changed room, which still isn't fully done because we're waiting for more stuff to be sorted out. So it's just been like constant go. So it's been nice to just kind of decompress for a week. But like I said, Saturday morning off to Ireland, back late Sunday night, one last chill day Monday, and then back to work. But it's been good. I've really enjoyed it. It's just crazy busy.
I feel like I need a decompress week.
Yes, it's all well and good being freelance and getting to do stuff you're truly passionate about, but the lack of
the brain never, like, I never switch off from doing something.
You need to get to the point where you're so coveted, Hori, that that thought process, even when you're off, is still chargeable.
I wish.
That's what I like. That's what the top lawyers in America do, isn't it? Every second I'm thinking about your case is billable.
Yeah, with lawyers.
Yeah, that's what you need to. That's the level you need to hit, Hori.
No, I just need to be at the point where I can afford to just go do my work from some hot country. If I'm going to be remote, I might as well just like once I can afford to go to somewhere nice, then I'll just go and do my work there instead.
Just Google warm countries with good internet.
Yeah, I'll just go to Bali find someone with a good internet connection.
Valid. But we've had quite a busy week, like nerd-wise.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of different things happened this week.
Yeah. So first and foremost, before we even get into the character profile, last week we were discussing when the Thor trailer would happen, and I said I won't be surprised if we don't get one at this point.
And I said
I don't think we'll get one till after Doctor Strange.
And I said it'd be dropped with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and it did that turn up like 2 days later.
Yeah, we were both wrong.
Anyway, and because of that Thor trailer, I thought now was the perfect time for me to do a character profile on Lady Thor.
Yes.
So that's our character profile this week. Oh, smooth transition. So I've tried to cut this down a lot because Lady Thor is Jane. So Lady Thor also happened in the 616 comic universe, which is Marvel's main universe, which means for me to research her was like all of Jane Foster. So I've cut out a lot of the before and a lot of the after, and this is just about her time as Lady Thor, because otherwise we'd have an hour-long episode on it, because characters this old and ingrained in the Marvel universe have a lot about them. So, as far as I'm concerned, Lady Thor kind of starts when Jane gets cancer.
Okay.
she is on Earth getting treatment for her cancer when she gets asked to move to Asgard to join the Congress of Worlds to represent Midgard or Earth. She agrees to this. Thor kind of asked her in hopes that she would agree to also have magical treatment for her cancer, which she refused. She said she would just have regular human chemotherapy treatment. She would do it on Asgard while representing Earth. Around this time, Thor was fighting Gorr the God Butcherer. And as a result of this fights and kind of the battling ideology they were having, Thor actually lost worthiness to wield Mjolnir.
Right.
And left it stranded on the moon, as no one was worthy to wield it, so no one could summon it. But Mjolnir's actually, what's the word? Telepathic. It's kind of a sentient being. So it was actually reaching out to Jane Foster telepathically, calling to her. After a few months, Jane finally caved and asked Heimdall to take her to the hammer. And then she lifts it, and as the enchantment says, they who should be worthy and can lift the hammer will receive the power of Thor. So she did. But we've got to remember, in the comics at this time and traditionally, it was kind of a case of Thor looked different when he wasn't wielding the hammer. It physically transformed how he looked and everything. And the same thing happened to Jane. She went from being very sickly and ill and bald from her cancer treatment to being Asgardian and fucking wham with the helmet similar to what we saw in the trailer, which obviously we discussed in a little bit. Obviously, she'd seen Thor wield Mjolnir a lot, and the telepathic connection allowed her to slowly learn how to wield Mjolnir. But basically, Thor wasn't very happy to find out this new person had his hammer, because he kind of had a bit of an arrogance about him of,
It's mine.
This is my hammer. If I'm not worthy, no one can possibly be worthy. Blah 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 blah. He wasn't taking this kind of crisis he was having well. It was a straight up crisis. However, after an interaction and a discussion, we have to be clear here. Thor didn't know that Jane was Lady Thor, the new wielder of the hammer. He didn't realise. But he said to this person, I'm not worthy, therefore I do not feel like I'm Thor right now. So you are Thor, as the hammer suggests. Receive the power of Thor. It's not just a name, it's a title. She took on the title, which then led to Thor going simply by Odin's son for a while, which I think is a fucking kick-ass name.
Yep.
She was then just the Thor of Midgard and Asgard for a while. But essentially what happened was, when she was transforming, it was stopping her cancer treatment. So essentially what this boils down to is comic books being comic books and trying to not put themselves into a corner, so sometimes you just have to accept stuff that sounds a bit weird. When she transformed, the body she kind of transformed into destroyed the cancer drugs because it didn't need them. But when she transformed back, the cancer was still there, but the cancer drugs weren't, because the cancer was viewed as part of her, which meant her treatment wasn't doing anything to stop her cancer, and it was getting worse. To the point where she was told if she transformed again, she would probably die.
Oofed.
So she had to give up being Thor.
Right, okay.
Odin's son then took over the mantle again and became Thor. Then, during the numerous secret wars, secret invasions, secret empire events, she helped out in different ways. Eventually, it got to a certain event, I cannot remember which one, where we needed all the firepower possible. and one of the shattered versions of Thor's hammers. There was like 9 Thors all working together. She then summons some of the shattered remains of one of the Mjolnirs and used them to transform herself back into Lady Thor to help. Which obviously then meant everyone knew she had been Lady Thor previously. She helped them achieve their goal, and then as she transformed back, she was basically on the brink of death. And to save her, they don't really understand how. They basically turned her into an Asgardian Valkyrie, and made her like. So in the comics, again, the comic book lore, this might be the most confusing bit I've had to read. The Valkyries, while they are the soldiers of Asgard, are also who take the fallen Asgardian souls to Valhalla, which is their heaven. So they believe without any Valkyries, no one can go to Valhalla. All the Valkyries died as a result of this big battle. So there was no one to take Asgardians to Valhalla. So they needed a Queen Valkyrie to rebuild the Valkyries, essentially. Jane was turned into the Queen Valkyrie, which saved her from her cancer, and then gave Asgard a way to send people to Valhalla again.
Okay.
That is Lady Thor as best as I can do it. There's a lot of stuff before and after, which actually makes it quite difficult because it's not a straight up character profile like I've done previously. It's like a period of time within a character.
Yeah, it's like a character arc.
Yeah, exactly, which makes it a little bit difficult. But I think it means there's also a lot more for them to play with. What I will say before we fully get into the trailer, when Valkyrie is sitting there in the suit in the trailer as King of Asgard, that I think could be our version of the Congress of Worlds. So I won't be surprised if we see Jane also at that table. Jane or Lady Thor had a mask as well as the helmet, like in the comic book. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if we don't see a kind of a little bit of the Thor doesn't know straight away that it's Jane. We might see the Jane having cancer aspect. I don't know.
Or some other illness.
Yeah. The one thing that really I think is going to be done a bit differently, because although it's very easy to go, oh, because of the Gore the God Butcher stuff, Thor doesn't loses his worthiness. I think what's going to happen is it's well established. Look, to wield Mjolnir, you need to be willing to kill. I think with the meditation and stuff we saw in the Thor trailer, he is becoming a pacifist. And his unwillingness to stop Gore by killing him, which is the only way to stop him, might cause him to slightly lose worthiness.
Possibly.
Anyway, so that's that. Now let's just talk about the trailer itself. I just wanted to link them a couple of bits up before I forgot about them.
I think the trailer's an absolute vibe.
We always start with vibes when we're discussing stuff. We do. And yes, the vibe is fucking immaculate. I always butcher his name and I'm going to continue to do it. Takiti Watiti. That might be the worst I've ever done.
Possibly.
He's an absolutely brilliant director. Thor and Thor the Dark World were bottom tier MCU films. Thor Ragnarok is a top tier MCU film, and that is all down to his direction. And I see no reason why Thor Love and Thunder is going to be any different.
I mean, just off the music choice in the trailer immediately gives the same like vibes. So
exactly. I think we've got enough in the trailer to get excited about, with them also giving fuck all away really about the actual plot.
Yeah, they didn't really. I'd say from the trailer, the only plot points that you get is Thor finally snaps out of his goblin phase of being a gamer at home drinking beer all day. There's obviously going to be a workout scene, so he gets back into shape, and then he's with the Guardians of the Galaxy traveling around. That's as far as kind of the plot points go.
You know what it kind of seems like to me? So Thor's like 2,000 years old or whatever it is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
What if what we're essentially going to get is like a coming of age story? But of course, we're used to that for like 18 to 21-year-olds because that's when humans like come of age and find themselves and discover who they are. What if this is Thor's coming of age story? He doesn't have the pressure of leading Asgardians anymore. He has a strong sense of right and wrong. He's out exploring space with no responsibilities, which he's never been able to do before, with new friends who don't really know that much about him, because, I mean, they've barely known him.
Yeah.
What if this is just like Thor exploring himself and finding out who he actually is?
I don't know if it's necessarily. I feel like he sort of had a bit of his coming of age in the first Thor when he went from that arrogant youngster to understanding his responsibility as Thor. I don't know what so I interpret the traveling as something. I think it starts. See, this is the thing with the trailer. I think that isn't actually going to be that much time spent with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe.
I think he starts off maybe traveling around with them, but because we know this film's got Gore the God Butcher in it, I think it then shifts to him going to find old friends of other gods to trying to find out more, and then that's when why he's traveling around visiting places. I think it's him on the trail. Because obviously we saw him go to what seemed to be Zeus in the trailer. And then there's that shot of, I don't know what the creature's called, but the big, huge, giant, dead creature that's like got a rocky spine on it or whatever. I saw online that's like straight from the comic books, and that is a god that Thor knew, which is why I think he's gone to visit someone, found him dead, and he's like, someone's killed this person, like this other god, and then that's him on the trailer for Gore.
So I think the big question is, at the end of this film, is Chris Hemsworth still Thor in the MCU? Is he still in the MCU full stop? And if he's in the MCU and not our Thor anymore, what kind of role does he take on?
I suppose it depends on, because if we go off like what you just discussed then about Lady Thor and the character profile, and that he goes through a period of not being Thor and just being Odin's son, if we only actually get introduced to Lady Thor towards the end of the film, maybe that's the transition for a little bit, and then maybe he comes back at a later date.
So it's difficult to think about the story without thinking about like the real world side of it as well. Natalie Portman is not exactly young. She's late 30s, early 40s herself. So I doubt she's going to want to be tied into being Thor for another 10 years into her early to mid 50s potentially. Especially bearing in mind up until like Endgame, she'd fallen out with Marvel altogether. which is why her character kind of got sidelined a little bit. So the question is, do Marvel feel like that situation is resolved enough to the point where they can rely on her to be that big a character for that long? Or do we just get purely she is Lady Thor for this film, and then we don't actually have a Thor for a while? Which wouldn't necessarily be an issue. We could also get, I can't remember which one it is when I saw this when I was young, so these are sketchy memories at best. If anyone thinks they know what film I'm talking about, please feel free to tell me. It was an animated film about young Avengers, but not the comic book Young Avengers, as far as I know. And it was like Captain America and Black Widow had a kid who became like the new Captain America. Thor had a daughter who became Thor. Stuff like that. Maybe they leave us with her being pregnant. Because they're Asgardian, they age. They hit human level of maturity a little bit quicker. So then we can have them. I don't know. Or maybe we do get her as Lady Thor for a decent amount of time, and Chris Hemsworth stays about as Odin's son and just joins the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Possibly.
Because Chris Hemsworth has the kind of acting capacity in that comedy sense to really work well in Guardians Volume 3, potentially.
Yeah.
But there's definitely lots of options. They've given fuck all away with the story, which Marvel have been shaky at for the last few trailers. Like, they've given a bit more of the story than I'd like, along with all the leaks coming out. There's been very few leaks from this film, other than Christian Bale was in it. And this trailer's not giving away much more.
This is also a teaser trailer, though.
Yeah. And yet I'm really excited still.
So there's more than likely going to be a full-on trailer before, which potentially will give more of an idea of the plot direction.
Possibly.
It is possible they could maybe just do Lady Thor for, like, the story goes where it ends with Lady Thor, and then she does it for like one film in between.
Maybe.
And then it goes, and Chris Hemsworth's just Odin's son. Oh. And there's like a bit of a weird, like, gap in a way to kind of play into the storylines of things going on, maybe?
Maybe.
Who knows? Well, we know who knows, but...
They won't tell me. They're not answering my calls, bastards.
Maybe one day we'll get the inside scoop.
But on to more of who fucking knows. Moon Knight episode 4.
Yeah, more of a mindfuck.
Yeah, okay. Let's not do it backwards. Let's start at the beginning of the episode.
I don't know. The whole episode, the whole series is mindfuck.
Okay, so obviously at the end of episode 3, Khonshu had been imprisoned.
Yeah.
And we're kind of left with, shit, what do we do now? Mark, Stephen don't have their powers. There was a bit of there was a few more teases for Jake. And we also kind of got led to believe that Mark was maybe responsible for his wife's father's death.
Yeah.
And it leaves a lot up in the air to the point of it almost felt like a season cliffhanger, not a mid part of a season. Because we really don't know what's coming. So we come back in, we've got them trekking through the desert, trying to beat Arthur to the tomb, as well as not having any power. And one of the first things that happen is all of that progression we've kind of seen of Mark and Stephen agreeing to like tag in and out when it's necessary gets thrown out the window. Stephen's like, wait, so Khonshu's gone? Yes. You said when Khonshu goes, you go. Bye.
Yeah. It kind of switched up.
That really threw me. And I don't know if I like that.
I think when it happened, I was kind of like, oh shit, okay. but it kind of does. Like, it still felt like it makes sense to me. It's like they were starting to do the tag in thing, but there was still that like Steven didn't want to be doing the stuff that like he was he reluctantly was willing to help, and it was kind of like, oh, Khonshu's gone. We made this agreement that when Khonshu goes, you'll let me be in charge. So why is that change now? And so yeah, it made sense to me that he then would decide to take control.
Yeah. I really liked the tomb section. Like when they realised that the way it's laid out is like the Eye of Horus. And maybe we should look at the tongue if we want to find the Avatar's body.
Yeah, the whole lead up was like. Also,
we definitely got the Indiana Jones vibe we've been waiting for.
Yeah, and then it was like also like as they arrived at the camp, and then there was no one there, but it was kind of like some of the shots they showed definitely gave you the vibe that this felt like it wasn't abandoned properly.
Yeah.
Like there was something going, like from the get-go when they arrived there, I was like, something weird's going on here. Like there's more to this than just like they've gone into the tomb. And then when they are figuring out like it's the Eye of Horus, and then they're finding their way through. I will also add, the bit when they abseiled in and then Steven just fell in.
Yeah.
Because he clearly didn't want to say that he had no clue what he was doing, and she's used to Mark.
To this girl that he likes, can you show me how to do this?
Yeah, when Mark is usually no, so she didn't think anything of it. But yeah, then the whole looking through and the kind of the level of detail on things, and then when they found the fresh blood on the table, I was like, something's gone down here, something weird, and then a creepy guy comes out of the shadows.
So I've seen discussion about this on Twitter, and I want your opinion. Is that moment where Mark's hiding above and you see the hand come over the scariest moment so far in the MCU?
I don't know if the part with the hand is the scary moment. I was more like gritting teeth, like, oh shit, when she was on the like crouched by the table and she was trying to like move around it while he was like, that was more of a tense moment. Like,
but that entire section.
Okay, yeah, I'd say that section with the creepy ass mummy thing.
I don't think we've seen anything that like genuinely like before in Marvel, and I think it was done beautifully.
Yeah, I can't think in Marvel if there's anything been like that.
Yeah, I think that's a couple of, like jump moments.
Yeah,
like genuinely where you're like, oh no. Yeah, it's one of the things where it just gives you the heebie-jeebies.
It was really well built up to though as well, because it's like they kind of weren't noticing things, but you could like the way it was filmed was making it clear that something was going on. And then when they like noticed some small things, but then they kind of brushed them off. I don't think anyone was expecting it to be some like creepy ass fucking undead mummy thing. That clearly is something to protect the tomb.
Yeah.
I almost thought at first, when you could hear something coming, there's going to be another thing they couldn't see.
And only like powers anymore.
Well, I wasn't sure if like he'd still see it or something, or like it would be some situation like that. But yeah.
But yeah, it was very, very good. Then we find out that this tomb could be the long lost tomb of Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
Which really just adds a level of lore that I loved.
Lore and like kind of ties it. It helps add to that feeling that it's of these times that Marvel likes to do. Like they like to try and tie in some pop culture references or like real world references to make it feel like this cinematic universe is going on in the world we live in.
It makes it feel more lived in.
Yeah.
Then Arthur and his goons turn up to take it off of Stephen.
Yeah.
Mark takes over, or Stephen just goes, "Fuck this shit, I'm out." I don't know which.
I thought I thought that's when we were gonna get the Jake. I thought there was gonna be a situation where like Mark wouldn't want to take over, and then that's when they'd reveal Jake, but it didn't happen.
So then we went for the traditional, okay, yeah, I'll give over. Come over here. He fucks a couple of guys up, and then he gets shot.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what I was expecting at this moment, because I'm aware he didn't have his powers. But part of me thought Khonshu would, like, turn out to be quite compassionate, so much so that he was able to break free to save him. Or he was going to fall into the water and it was going to be some kind of special, like, Lazarus pit-esque water. Or what? And then the second bullet hit. And I went, oh shit, I don't know what's happening.
For me, it was like, he started fucking him up and then he yeets the axe on him. I'm just like, what? That seems like a bold move. And then it does like the pan with the axe and then it just shoots him once. I'm like, well, that's him. I was like, okay, he's just been shot in the chest. So I'm like, and then it's like he's followed by this like second shot. I'm like, oh, he's dead. He's dead now. I'm like, Marvel's either gonna pull some moment here where he lives, or I'm just gonna he's just gonna be dead. And then
then we get this weird kind of Indiana Jones film. And
yeah.
I find myself going, wait, has Disney lagged and it's showing me some random fucking thing?
I always got WandaVision vibes.
And then the character calls the other character Stephen, Dr. Grant. And I'm like, the fuck is going on here? And then everything up until that point in the Moon Knight show gets thrown out the fucking window.
Well, it just gets flipped. They basically just flip the table, and now you don't know what the table was anymore.
Yeah. And do you know what the annoying thing for me is? And it's annoying in the sense of I'm annoyed with myself, not annoying in the sense of the quality of the show. When I did my character profile on Moon Knight in episode, I want to say 4, I literally said in the comics, Mark, Stephen, Moon Knight, they are all unreliable narrators because of their mental illness. And I just seem to forget about that because of like the shaking and the cutting between characters. I was like, oh, so they're just going to show us everything, but they're going to show us the distinction between the characters. Forgetting that these characters are still mentally ill, they could misremember things.
So, when everything shifted at the end of episode 4, the first thing I thought of was when you did that character profile, there was a point in it where you mentioned that there's even a thought amongst fans, or like even in the comics, of this could all just be made up by Stephen.
Yeah.
And immediately I was like, I don't know what to trust anymore, because this could be the reality and everything else has been made up, or this is some weird heaven scene where he's dying, so his brain's turned reality into something else, or what we've seen is reality and this is some now weird new made up way, or this is like an inside look at his brain, or who fucking knows now.
Exactly. We see basically all of the characters who've like been noteworthy throughout the show in this scene as well. The police officers were the what they called. I don't call them nurses.
The psych wardens.
Yeah. You had Stephen's boss sitting in a chair watching the TV. You had one of the guys solving a Rubik's Cube. You had his wife fucking eating marshmallows, writing stuff up on the board.
It was everyone that was a part of the antagonist guy, I always forget his name. Arthur. Like all of the staff and like nurses or wardens, whatever, are all his goons that we've seen throughout. Then it's like anyone that's been popped up in Steven's life is just another patient. And then like his wife is a slightly less crazy looking patient out of some of the other ones we were briefly shown. She seemed to have more going on. And then Steven, they show Steven and he's like completely sedated.
You know what one I didn't notice at first, but I did see on Twitter?
Go on.
The guy right at the very beginning who was calling out bingo. That was the golden statue, man.
Oh yeah, it was. And he was shouting out B22, which isn't a bingo thing. which bugged me. It was like
there might be a reason
which
for that.
There probably is a reason for it. And then his wife was saying, I've got bingo off one and half a sheet's filled in, and I'm thinking.
Then he obviously goes in to sit and have an appointment with his psychiatrist.
Who is Arthur?
Which, and at this point, it could all very easily make sense that this has all been a big delusion, because the enemies are all the people who are working there trying to look after him. And all of his friends and people he knows who aren't the enemy are other patients. So it's all very believable. But you still find yourself going, wait, but I don't like you as the watcher still find yourself going, no, but that's the bad guy. Even though it's very possible he's not the bad guy.
It's like up until that point of this little like scene, it all suddenly makes you think, holy shit, he's just in a psych ward. This is all just a delusional thought. And it's like, that's where your brain suddenly goes. But then when he goes into the office with Arthur, they slowly then pull apart that thought. Because the way it's filmed, they don't show you all the Egyptian artifacts straight away. You slowly, as if you gain your peripheral vision of that, like Steven does, like they slowly like kind of reveal this office space and how it is actually just like there's so much Egyptian like artifacts and kind of things that feel like it feels like they've literally gone from like the reality we've just been seeing and just copy pasted it into this room. Then there's like the details of he's in the sandals again, he spots the sandals. And there's a point where you can hear the sandals crunching still. And I'm like, okay, so if he's a doctor, why would he have sandals with glass in them?
And then can you even trust they actually do have glass in them, or is that just his hallucinations? See what I mean?
Yeah, but like, the only reason like, in the doctor's office, this is what I'm like, I think when he's in that one-on-one, like, having therapy session, they then start pulling apart like this also could now be another thing that's going on in his head, and you don't know at all which is reality now, because they've merged them.
What I will say is Moon Knight is a street level hero in comics. So this entire situation has always seemed a bit big for his boots. So I would be all in for this to end up being him breaking out of a psych ward and being a psycho vigilante. I'm fine with that. I know people will be pissy with that, and I don't think that is what's going to happen, because a lot of people would be pissy about it. But I would actually be fine with that. What really I thought was amazing was he's then broken out of the interview meeting thing, and he's found a tomb that's fucking bang, 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 bang. He opens it up, and there is Steven.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm sure everyone like myself instantly went, "Oh, it's Steven!" Because even the way Oscar Isaac like controls his body when he's acting as these guys, you can tell who it is, which I think is just phenomenal. And I can't praise Oscar Isaac enough for this. And then the bit that annoyed me most, they get out, they're running, they see another sarcophagus banging to be let out, and they go, "No, we're gonna leave that," and they just keep going. Let Jake out, bitches. Let him out.
That sarcophagus design was kind of made to look
Scary.
Yeah, scary, more like violent looking than one. And I think,
I mean, it's got to be Jake, hasn't it?
oh yeah, that's what they're playing on. They want you all to like. They're finally really in your face. Like, look, there's a third personality, but we're
You've
not
got
showing
people
you.
who are realizing it from episode 1/2, like me and yourself. People who started to pick up on it on episode 3, and now everyone else at the same time is going, "Oh, maybe there's a third guy."
Yep.
To the point where Jake Lockley was literally trending on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah.
I went onto our Cutscene Convo's Twitter, and under the trending for you was literally Jake Lockley. And I clicked on it, I was like, wow. Everyone is it's just loads of screenshots of that guy. Let the motherfucker out. Let my boy Jake run free.
They're clearly. I think we're gonna start the next episode with meeting him.
So, like I said, I thought the episode was going to end with them chains breaking, him falling out, and him going, "Hi, I'm Jake. Let's get out of here." And then we'd get like an episode of the 3 of them fighting together to get out, and then an episode where they're back in, I want to say, the real world, or the world we've become accustomed to. But instead of that, we get the most bizarre thing I've ever fucking seen. They kick open the doors, they're ready to keep making their run for it, and just hippopotamus.
So
friendly, just so I can be very clear. It looks like it's going to help them out, despite their screams of terror. He looked like he smiled at them.
I don't know Egyptian gods well enough. Is there an Egyptian god that is it? Because obviously they're all different animals.
Oh god!
And have like
Egyptian
animal
goddess
head.
Hippo is like an autofill.
Not surprised after that.
Okay, so we didn't see much more. Okay, no, so this has literally answered my question. Moon Knight, the hippo goddess from episode 4, explained. Who is Tauret? Tauret is the Egyptian goddess of fertility and childbirth. She has the appearance of a hippo, but with the arms of a lion and the tails and legs of a crocodile, as in Moon Knight.
That's because my immediate thought was like, this is an Egyptian god.
Wait, is that the lady who was in the
So then, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. It's like when so obviously it ends on that, and in my head I'm like, well, that's got to be an Egyptian god, and I'm like, so which? And then I was like, is this going to be the one of the ones that was at the meeting in the pyramid?
So that lady that was really nice in the meeting, I've got a feeling that maybe that's the god that she's the avatar for, and that's why she looks so friendly. She's like, "Hey, let's get this bread, homies."
But I think it's like it kind of adds to my point of like everything from when we start in the psych ward to the therapy session makes you believe like, oh, this is the actual reality. He's just been imagining everything. But then everything from therapy session onwards slowly then starts to twist everything to, it's like becomes mixed. It's like a mesh of both realities, and now you have no clue which is the real one. I think this is all because he was dying. And this is like his... Like, I think there was a period of time when he was in a psych ward. Because he obviously already knew about, like, he has issues. And I think it's memories of that time meshing with memories of what he's just been going through. And his like he's inside his own mind and he can't obviously split them. So it's all just been meshed together. And that's why he's seeing, we saw body double, not the same person with personalities. We saw each personality as a full person. because he's in his own head.
So I've got a feeling I'm not completely off the lines with you. I agree to an extent. I think what this is a kind of purgatory that he can experience because once an avatar is always an avatar kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Khonshu's been locked away, but he kind of like left enough inside him to protect him for one last time, but not enough to fully resurrect him. So he's kind of stuck in this purgatory until he can be released, either to being dead or being restored.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the next episode is going to be them kind of interacting with the gods, such as Toret, to convincing them to release Khonshu so that he can be fully restored.
Yeah,
but I
mean,
think part of that is going to require Jake being let loose.
Yeah, I do think we're going to start off this next episode finding. Because I think what's going to happen is they freak the fuck out at the hippo. I think they run backwards into that room, and then they turn around and there's the caskets there, and they're like, well, I guess we open this to see what's in this one now. And then the three of them together escape whatever shit's going on.
But if we don't get Jake until episode 6, which is the final episode, I'm probably going to be a bit pissy about it, I'm going to be honest.
I don't think they...
because the pacing for this show so far has been brilliant. I don't want them to fall in the trap for the other Disney Plus shows of rushing the last episode. If Jake only gets released and like explored in the last episode, it's going to be rushed.
I think... No, I do think we get him this next episode, because it's obviously some of this next episode is going to be in this psych ward place. And if anything, that kind of gives you a good space to bring him out in and explain, because he's going to be more chaotic. But yeah, like, who fucking knows where it's going now?
Overall, where do you put it with the other episodes? Better, worse, average?
I think I enjoyed episode 3 more. And maybe that's partly on like some of the visual effects and kind of getting to have both of the characters working together and all that. Like, it kind of felt like, oh, this is a cool point. And there was a lot of Khonshu stuff in that, which was also cool. But I'd probably put this maybe just below episode 3, because this is like mental fuckery, which is what I've talked about on the run up to this with Fight Club and how much I was looking forward to. Like, there's gonna be some complete flips that we just don't see because they purposefully are showing it as one way, and now they're going to show it as a different way, and things are going to completely change.
I think for me, I enjoyed episode 4 more, but I think episode 3 is the better episode.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving on to our next little topic here. Last week, we discussed a couple of just our opinions, who gives a fuck if people disagree kind of thing. And we said we had 2 more of them, but we decided we were going to save them. So we're going to do them this week. So to start with, we've got, in our opinions, the most underrated comic book movie of all time. This doesn't necessarily mean that it's like the best film ever and everyone's sleeping on it. Just compared to where you think it is and where you believe most people put it, what's the biggest difference? And then we also have the most overrated comic book movie. Now, I'm going to get you to go first, Tori, because I think I'm going to piss a lot of people off.
Well, last week's questions were easy enough for me. This week's questions, I'm always the worst for these, because like when we did our tier list a long time ago, I essentially, I find it really hard to rate films on like any large scale. It's either I enjoyed the film, I didn't like the film. That's as far as my ratings go. That's the way my brain works. So it's like pretty much all the Marvel films, I enjoy them all. So to try and pick the most underrated, I kind of have two. One that's probably a lot of people maybe disagree on me, and maybe it's just the way my brain is, but one of them is The Incredible Hulk. I don't think it's as bad as people make out. It's definitely not. It's definitely the bottom end of Marvel films, but I don't think it's as bad as people feel it is. And maybe that's just because I'm like, it was satisfying enough that I enjoyed it, so I don't put it that low. And I think it plays its part it needs to in the whole grand scheme of the MCU, and it's the building blocks of it. Then the other one is, which has kind of like, had you asked me like a year or so ago, I definitely would have said this, but I guess it's probably shifted a lot recently, which is the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. Like, everyone kind of rated Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man as the worst one. A lot of people did, but I've always enjoyed them. And I feel like they were, out of the Spider-Man films, they're underrated in that sense.
Okay. So for underrated, I've gone for the original X-Men film. And that is not because I think it's poorly received or that people don't like it. I think it gets forgotten about a lot when people talk about really good comic book films.
I was about to say I can't remember the original X-Men film.
Don't get me wrong, it doesn't really hold up too much to where we're at now with comic book films, but X-Men films walked so the MCU could run. And I think the original X-Men film is actually still holds up, still a good film. And it's not underrated because people will watch it and go, I think it's underrated because people just can forget about it when it's actually quite a good film.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even really remember the film.
And I'm going to go first with overrated because I think this is what's going to piss people off.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to preface this. Yes, this is a brilliant fucking film. It's probably top 10 comic book films of all time. Maybe even top 5. But people act like it's one and no one's even close. Spider-Man 2 from the Raimi trilogy.
Oh.
I fucking adore that film. The people who rant and rave that it is the greatest comic book film ever and no one's ever going to top it, I'm willing to bet have not watched that film in 10 plus years and just imagine it and remember it with rose-tinted glasses.
But still, I don't associate with this man, so any hate, please direct towards Connor, not me. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing at any point here.
Don't get me wrong, I adore this film. It's a fucking amazing film. It is not as good as a lot of people would like to make it seem.
I get what you're saying.
And don't get me wrong, I might be on the wrong parts of the internet. I might be getting stuck in the parts of the internet where people just circle jerk about this film, and actually the majority of the internet agrees that yes, it's a good film, but it's not this amazing revolutionary film. But based on what I see on the internet, I think it's a little bit overrated.
Okay. Well, my overrated is different. Now I'm going to preface this of I haven't seen this, which maybe ruins my entire opinion. But
so
no. But from what I have, because I've not like tried to avoid spoilers on it, so I have heard enough about it that I feel I can preface this opinion.
I feel like I'm about to have a shot taken at me.
I don't know, maybe. But it's the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Hey, no, that's valid. That is valid as fuck.
I feel like everyone raves about Snyder cut made it this incredible film. because they always go on and like it should be the Snyderverse now, and like it's this incredible film. But from everything I've heard is like, yes, it improved the film, but the film's still not that great.
So my opinion on it, as someone who's seen the original Justice League and the Snyder Cut, the original Justice League is the only time in my entire life I have left the cinema angry.
Okay.
Physically sitting there watching it angry. Even the original Suicide Squad, I wasn't angry. I just left and I was like, oh, I mean, it was entertaining at parts, and then the story started to fall apart as I thought about it after I'd left.
Mhm.
With the Justice League, I was sitting there watching stuff happen, going, that's fucking dumb. This is not enjoyable. I dislike this greatly. And I probably ruined the film for Jenna even more. I know she doesn't like it, but it made it difficult for her to even try and enjoy it with me sitting there literally shaking with anger with how bad it was. The Schneider Cut is infinitely better, but Infinity of Dog Shit doesn't make it the greatest thing ever. It is definitely overrated, and I think that's a stellar pick. But somehow you might actually be more hated for that opinion than me.
Probably because I haven't seen it.
But no, forget that. Snyder Cut fanboys and Snyderverse fanboys might be the worst subsection of comic book fanboys.
That's why it's overrated, though, because they're so obsessed.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it is a good film, and it's definitely worth watching. But it's not as good as some people would have you believe, which is exactly what overrated means. And as we've been discussing this, I've just thought about what we can do as our question for next week. So I'm just going to say it openly so people know to come back for it. Next week, what if we do our comic book movie opinions that people are going to hate the most? Just try and piss people off at this point. Why not?
Okay. I could you know what I'm like, I love to troll, so I can there's a few opinions that I like sort of believe, but I fully put them out there like I'm like fully stand by them. Sure, why not?
Okay, sweet. Now it's just kind of on to like the news section, I guess.
And it kind of ties into the Snyder Cut.
Yeah, a little bit. Ezra Miller. He's been arrested again.
It was only like, was it last week or the week before we talked about this?
2 weeks ago, he got arrested for being drunk and disorderly and abusive and whatever it was.
Yeah, for like multiple times in a space of...
and a couple in Hawaii put a restraining order against him because his behaviour was like targeted at them.
Yeah, he threw a chair at someone.
Yeah. He's now been arrested this time for assault.
Oh, yeah. This time he threw a chair at some woman in a bar or a restaurant.
Yeah.
I saw... And you shouldn't make...
I don't have anything more to say than what we've already said, really, is there?
Like, I would be shocked if Warner Brothers don't do something now at this point. But then another thing, and it's, you shouldn't necessarily make light of these situations of the people this happens to. Ezra Miller, whatever, like, to make piss out of him what you want. But there was a thing, it was like, the chances of getting assault in Hawaii is slightly higher if Ezra Miller's about. Because this is like the this is like the third or fourth case of him getting rowdy.
You're more likely to get assaulted by Ezra Miller in Hawaii than be attacked by a shark.
Yes,
that's an official statistic. And it's like, A, how the fuck does someone spend the time working that out? But B, fuck me, are sharks overhated and is Ezra Miller fucking dangerous?
Sharks are always overhated. I love sharks.
But yeah,
if Warner
this isn't even DC's only issue right now. We're not going to talk about it too much because it is a big entire thing that has a lot more going on to it than fucking comic book stuff. We're going to stick to the comic book stuff. Me and you have been very clear. We will not watch Aquaman 2 if Amber Heard ends up being in it. The way this Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case is going right now, it's not looking good for her. And there's a real chance as a result of that, she gets removed from Aquaman 2. I said when Aquaman 2 got delayed, hopefully that means they're going to get rid of that's because they're planning on getting rid of Amber Heard. That was like a dream I had. And it's looking increasingly likely that that could be what they want to do based on actors' behaviors, studios' behaviors, and stuff like that. And if that's the case, that means the Flash film is in fucking turmoil because Ezra Miller's being a dickhead. Whether it's because he's mentally unstable and needs help or not, he is being a dickhead, and that is going to hurt the Flash film.
Yep.
And unless they act quickly, just deciding to cut Amber Heard out of the Aquaman film could mean the Aquaman film doesn't make a lot of sense, or there's some really poor CGI done, and that could make the film just unwatchable.
Well, it depends.
If they don't replace her properly.
Depending how much digital, because with visual effects, especially nowadays, a lot of the time in a lot of scenes, it's just a digital body. It's not. It's don't get me wrong. It's a lot of work, but it's not the most difficult work to just change the face on a digital body.
The problem is DC have proved on a number of occasions they really struggle with these VFX. Do we dare talk about the Superman mustache? And I think that's what. And also, it's not just having to replace her. It's can they physically replace her in time for like a new voice and stuff to do the lines and find someone who can do it, because that person will then have to play Mira going on. But it's also, if they can't find someone to do that, they need to then try and cut Mira out of the film, which would require story changes, reshoots and stuff. If they stick to this new delayed deadline, and they haven't already decided Amber Heard is not going to be in the film, this film is in danger of being shocking. However, if they re-delay the film to allow more time and decide Amber Heard is not in the film as of now, there's still a chance of it being a decent film.
Yes, and I think there's also I know Warner Bros. Doesn't have a great track record, but while a situation like this, they can always hire more VFX studios to help with the changes, to help with the fact that there's a time crunch. And hiring more VFX studios means there's a higher chance that the VFX are done well.
Hopefully. But if she's gone from the film, that's another comic book film we'll get to see, which is always a good thing.
I would be surprised if she's not gone now. And not going into the whole...
Yeah, we're not going to get into all the nitty-gritty of it, because there's a lot going on. The court case is still ongoing.
Yeah.
But the way this case looks to be going, I won't be surprised if they've already basically decided she's gone, but they're going to wait until the court case is over before announcing it.
I think if she isn't gone and they aren't dealing with this Ezra Miller situation properly, Warner Brothers is going to lose they're already in rocky waters with certain fan groups. They are going to absolutely tank themselves if they handle these two situations poorly or in the wrong direction. And I think, not necessarily from I trust in Warner Brothers, I trust in the lawyers telling them what they should be doing to help make their money. So I think there's enough people at Warner Brothers that will care more about not losing out on money that they'll direct this in the right way. So hopefully.
Other little bits of news: Spider-Verse Part 1 is coming in June 2023. Spider-Verse Part 2 March 2024.
I'm gonna be so old. We're gonna be so old.
I know, but I'm still gonna go see it on opening night. And if there's a little child talking through the film, I'm still gonna fucking.
Do you want to know what's gonna be sad? Wait, when does Part 2 come out?
March 24.
I will.
So 2 years last month.
Yeah, so I will get 2 months off turning 29.
Pain.
Yeah, means I'll watch that, and then it's like, basically got a year till I'm 30, and it's.
I mean,
Ah.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I mean, fuck knows if this podcast's even going to be around to cover them.
True. Who knows where we'll be?
Fast.
Yeah, no, life switches up.
We could be far too busy having millions of dollars and many bitches to be worrying about a little podcast. Who knows? Maybe we'll come back for specials just for them films. Who knows?
Do like one-off. We'll be big streamers by then. We'll just do one-off streams where we talk about it.
We'll just turn it into. We'll just 1 hour randomly a week with no real schedule. We'll sit down and talk about comic books, and then pay one of our many editors to cut it down and upload it. Okay, we're now ready for the Superhero Showdown, which is nice. I'm just going to run through the bracket quickly so people who really care know what's going on. So, what we've got is we have got 4 heroes and 4 villains from both DC and Marvel. They are all the comic book versions. I have grouped them in their groups of 4 and seeded them. So, for instance, the Marvel Heroes group of 4 is Hercules, Luke Cage, Blade, and Nightcrawler, and they are seeded 1 to 4 as I've just read them out. Then we've got a round of 16 in which one goes up against 3 in their respective 4. And then we have the quarterfinal. The semi-final is then the Marvel hero versus the DC hero, and obviously the DC villain versus the Marvel villain. And then the final will be the overall hero versus the overall villain. Very simple. I'm going to read out all of our characters, just so you guys know who's competing, so you can make your predictions of who you think is going to win. We've got Hercules, Luke Cage, Blade, Nightcrawler, Doctor Doom, Abomination, Magneto, Green Goblin, Martian Manhunter, Cyborg, Aquaman, Black Lightning, Deathstroke, Scarecrow, Deadshot, and Captain Cold.
I think I know the one. I don't think we've had any of those, have we? In previous episodes.
I do not believe so. Which is pretty well done by us. So, week 1, round of 16, battle number 1, Hercules versus Blade.
Both my picks.
Yeah. So I've put a couple of rules in for how we need to imagine these when we're going through them.
Okay.
There is 0 prep time.
I knew that was coming first. Rule number 1: there is never prep time.
There is never prep time. These guys do not know they're fighting until they bump headfirst into each other. All characters are bloodlusted. So what this means for those of you who don't know is they do not give a fuck about any moral compass they have. They are fighting to kill the other person with everything at their disposal.
Yes.
And that plus the no prep time means what the person would normally have on them. So I know Batman's not in here, but Batman won't necessarily have that one obscure gadget he used that one time because his utility belt doesn't hold everything. So, bloodlusted, standard equipment they have on them at any given time. That is all.
This is a slight tangent, but just to be the annoying person, what if we ever picked video game Batman? Because video game Batman's utility belt is infinite.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
And if we ever pick video game Batman, I will take that video game that he is specific and what he starts with at the beginning of it, not when you're which means he probably won't even have
No, you'll have a Batarang and that is it all.
Don't choose Arkham City because he starts as Bruce Wayne and that's rough.
Ooh. Yeah. Anyway,
that's what you get for your little ass. Hercules versus Blade. So Blade is obviously a daywalker vampire because he's half human. He is extremely fast, extremely strong, extremely agile. He is very proficient with his bladed weapons, which include some swords and some throwing knives, daggers, things.
Yes.
And then you've got Hercules, who I don't know if he always has a weapon on him. I'm going to assume not, who is a god and is built like a brick shit house.
Yeah. My instinct thought is, well, Hercules isn't a vampire, so Blade's used to killing vampires. Blade's not used to killing gods.
Exactly.
So a stake to the heart isn't going to work. A silver bullet or holy water isn't going to work. So Blade kind of then, like, he's going to obviously know, like, his usual fit is this isn't what he's used to firing. He's probably just going to go in with his swords and try and use like his strength and agile speed. But I don't know if he's strong enough to kill a god.
Yeah. So here's where I'm at. Blade is gonna cut him a little bit. It's gonna be a bit of slice and dice, but he's a god. Yes, it's gonna be irritating, but it's not gonna put him in any real danger. As far as I'm aware, Blade doesn't have a particularly special sword. It's just a pretty standard katana. Maybe it's
Anything in
with a bit of holy water, but
or
that's
silver,
not really
yeah.
anything, yeah. So yeah, it's going to hurt and it's going to be a nuisance, but Hercules is durable enough to deal with that. Hercules is also bloodlusted, and fuck fighting a bloodlusted god. Because he's not pulling any punches like he would normally do when he's off being a hero. He's hitting with full force. I think it goes to Hercules, and I think it's pretty resounding. I'd say medium to low difficulty.
I feel like it'll just be a case of Blade dashes into, like, slices him up, gets smacked, goes and gets smacked again. And it's just a case of, like, there just comes a point where Blade doesn't get up from being smacked by a god.
And eventually, depending on how long the fight lasts, it will get to daytime where he has weakened powers.
Yeah.
He won't get burnt up by the sun, but he's not as strong when he's in sunlight.
Yeah, so I don't think Blade gets absolutely bodied, but it's gonna go.
I don't think there's a universe he wins, but I don't think he gets embarrassed.
Agreed. So I would say Hercules moves forward.
Because of the way the seedings are done, most of these first 8 fights are going to be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, one-sided.
They're seeded. But then hopefully by the time we get to the end, they'll be more complicated. Yeah. So there we go. We have our first hero. In about 8 weeks' time, Hercules will fight the winner of next week's fight, which will be Luke Cage and Nightcrawler. Which means, Hori, you've probably got some research to do to make sure you are prepped.
That's if I remember to do research. Like, yes, I probably should do research. But do I remember to do the research? That's my challenge.
So yeah, we've got a bracket now, which means every week I don't have to sit here and go, please give us.
Yeah, so like we're about to record and like, who are we doing as our Superhero Showdown tonight?
But there we go, we've got a bracket sorted. Once the bracket's complete, I might post it somewhere so you guys can shout out how wrong we were throughout the entire tournament. But I think this tournament actually looks pretty even as I'm looking at it, so it should be quite interesting.
There's some good picks.
I haven't gone far enough ahead to decide who I think is going to win the whole thing, because my brain will subconsciously try and force that person. But we'll see. And if we get any draws, we will post the polls on Twitter and let you guys decide who goes through to the next round.
Yes.
I think that's about it from us, unless there's anything I've missed, Hori.
I don't think there's anything. Can't think of anything. I don't think nothing else has come out. Nothing's come out today, like in the comic book world. So yeah, I think that covers us for this week.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, everyone, for hanging out. It's been an absolute blast. Like I said, like I say, most weeks it's one of my favourite things to do on any given week. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll catch you next week.
We will indeed.